it's definitely not shocking, but unexpected that they're clearly casting someone who doesn't look like Snape. You know, like even in the
Yep.
books, like he has a yellowish skin with long black hair and a pointy nose and almost like witch-like. And then they're like, "No, we're just gonna put this good-looking British black man in, and he's gonna be the new Snape." And it's like,
He
all
is
right.
very good looking. And you're like, okay.
And then I've seen him in. He was in Murder on the Orient Express. I saw that one. The Kenneth Branagh
Oh,
Poirot
yes, he
story.
was in that. I saw that. Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep. With Daisy
but he's
Ridley.
also
Yeah.
yeah, and he's done some Shakespeare movies, and I guess he was part of the Royal Shakespeare Acting Company. So he's got the chops. It's just surprising because you're like Lithgow, okay, I can see how they're gonna make him look like Dumbledore, and then you see Janet McTeer, and you're like, oh yeah, definitely be McGonagall, and then you're like, oh wow, all right, we go from Alan Rickman to Papa Isidore. So,
I think they
um,
had to though, because how do you compete with Alan Rickman, who was like literally a dream casting?
well, everyone was like Adam Driver. I'm like, Adam Driver would not come do this. No way.
I don't think he would, and I don't think they wanna just double up on someone that looks similar.
I
Again,
know.
it's like
Yeah, I
not
know.
honoring Alan Rickman to cast someone that looks just like Alan Rickman.
Welcome to Nerdy and Nice, everybody. We hope you are having a wonderful start to your week. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all who celebrate, to all who celebrated this weekend. May the Advil be with you. But we are here to talk to you all about the things we love in movies, TV, pop culture, outside of a galaxy far, far away, because a lot of you probably know us from the Resistance broadcast, our other podcast. Be sure to check that out. We had a great episode this past Thursday talking about Andor, among other things. But here we're here. All right, John, to talk about all the other stuff. Lacey, how are you on this Monday?
I'm good. We're gearing up, speaking of TRB, for Andor as well as going to Japan in a month.
Yep.
So that's kind of wild. We decided last week we're going to a baseball game in Japan.
Star
So
Wars night.
that
Yes.
is wild for me, outside of my comfort zone, going to a baseball game.
You've never
But
been to a baseball game?
I have, but I wouldn't say it's like something that I'm like, I gotta go to a baseball game. But I'm
Hmm.
excited. It should be fun. I'm pumped.
It's a very American thing to do.
It's gonna be a great night with a bunch of people from our community. So
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Lacey, did you see the latest uh, social media pressure upon an actor example? And this is from Scarlett Johansson now.
mm-hmm.
Um, she said Universal came to her and advised her or asked her if she could join Instagram in the lead up to the new Jurassic World movie. And that just adds another log onto the fire set by Maya and Ethan Hawke
Mm-hmm.
about the obsession with the social media stuff. So, just quick thoughts on what Scarlett Johansson had to say about that, and do you agree with her?
I think the whole social media thing and only casting celebrities that have some type of following is so dumb. I think that I feel like many people, oh my God, many people feel this way, which is art is starting to move away from being art and turning more into a business. You had Christina Ricci also this past week be like, we need to get less people running movie studios like businesses and more people that just love movies. Which is funny. We're going to get into the trailer for the studio with Seth Rogen, which kind of touches on this topic, but
Yeah.
um, it just seems like they're losing what makes movies great, and it's turned into so much about box office and about money and about all this marketing. And I understand it. I get it. People got to get paid. There has to be some type of profit, but at the same time, it's you can't help but wonder how many people are being missed along the way because they don't have social media following. And luckily, people like Scarlett Johansson got in before all of this. Um, but for her to even come out and be like, yeah, they want me to do this because Jurassic World's coming out, I can only imagine that she has the ability to be like, no. but not many people do have that ability.
Right.
And the funny thing is I did see people in the replies to this on social media talking about how Mikey Madison doesn't have social. And I was like, "Ah, see? I knew it because we had talked about that last week." Um, yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it's nothing new, I wouldn't say. It's not like it just happened overnight. It's been happening for a while now, but I hope that the people that from the writers and producers and people behind the scenes, as well as the people in front of the camera that are worthy of being there, get that chance over someone that has a huge following from talking about, like, seltzer beverages or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's a slippery slope, and it just seems like, the bubble always bursts, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon, though the industry is reeling a bit. So you got to wonder if when you hear more of these independent movies that are winning awards, but also making money, horror movies doing really well, independent horror movies doing really well because they're cheap to make and people love just to go see those things. Um, Studios' hands are going to be forced to maybe let people be creative and make those things because we're going to talk about Snow White again in a few here, and it's a great example of a big studio thing that seems to be completely sideways. But yeah, so why don't we just get into it, huh? See what's happening.
We should. Let's get into it.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough! I get the point.
Lots of news this week, ranging from casting announcements to not so great announcements to what's next.
Mhm.
So kicking it off, Sadie Sink, who I would say is pretty popular, but probably rose to fame exponentially from Stranger Things, is has been announced from Deadline that she's joining Tom Holland in the next Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 4. They haven't announced who she is playing, but she has been cast. Marvel and Sony did not make a comment at the time of us recording this. However, already people are pretty locked in that this is definitely happening. The question is, who's she going to play? Is she going to play probably not MJ because Zendaya's character is named MJ. But will she play like a Black Cat? Will she play Jean Grey from X-Men? Because she was also rumored to play that character, which if she did get that character, is this the crossover starting with Spider-Man and Marvel and X-Men? Is she playing Gwen Stacy again? Because they've had a bunch of redheads already play Gwen Stacy, and then they dye their hair blonde with Emma Stone and then Bryce Dallas Howard. What do you think? Are you intrigued by this announcement? Do you have any ideas of who she's gonna play, or are you just kinda like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah, it's definitely an okay, cool thing for me. I like these Spider-Man movies. Obviously, we're big fans of Christopher Ford and John Watts. Um, though I'm not sure. I didn't even see if they are involved in this one. I maybe in some
I think they're
capacity.
out.
Oh,
I
they
think
are.
they're out of this one, yeah.
But yeah, Sadie Sink. I was first introduced to her via Stranger Things for sure, and I thought she did great. Obviously that big takeaway episode. The whole running up that hill thing and all that. She was great on that show, and I think she actually has an opportunity to maybe come out being one of the more successful actors out of Stranger Things because I think she's going about things the right way. But getting this would be huge for her. I think Jean Grey, possibly. Everyone's waiting for the X-Men. We've talked about how that they are developing it right now behind the scenes. So I'm sure the wheels are really churning on that. So I could totally see it being Jean Grey. It could also be Mary Jane because at the end of the last Spider-Man movie, he sort of erases his existence in a weird way. So they could reintroduce that, though that would be a little
Also, her
strange.
name
So
was Michelle, wasn't it? It wasn't Mary Jane, it was, like, Michelle, but they called her MJ.
she was just MJ, yeah. So I don't think it'll be Mary Jane though. I really do think it'll be Jean Grey, and it'll be a way for people, a lot of eyeballs to get introduced to the new X-Men, because you assume a lot of people are going to go see the new Spider-Man movie. So it just makes sense, instead of just putting all your chips back into Spider-Man stuff, let's introduce our new thing in one of our more popular franchises. Win-win. And away the X-Men go. So I'm leaning towards it's going to be Jean Grey for that reason. And I mean, I like Famke Johnson as Jean Grey, but I definitely think Sadie Sink has the chops to easily pull that off. So that's my hope and my guess.
Did you like the girl from Game of Thrones when she was Jean Grey?
I didn't see that.
She was
I
Rise
don't
of the
think.
Phoenix, right?
Yes. What was it called? No, it wasn't Rise of the Phoenix. Phoenix. Famke Johnson did the Phoenix stuff. Unless
Dark
they did it
Phoenix?
again. Dark Phoenix. That sounds right.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's what it was. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
There have
I
been
mean,
so many X-Men movies.
so I like Sophie Turner. I thought she was great in Game of Thrones. But that movie, I didn't even see it because it just everyone just said it was absolutely horrible. So I may have seen scenes from it, but Sadie Sink I
Mm.
think could really pull it off and do a good job. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, she was great in Stranger Things. She was a standout in the last season with her Kate Bush moment, which was done by Sean Levy. It was just like the moment of the season. It was the one that everybody was listening to that song. Everybody was talking about on social media. It's just like one of those memorable moments in the franchise. So it's not surprising, like you said, that she's jumping onto bigger opportunities, especially if studios are trying to lock on to that audience of Stranger Things, which is so powerful. It's like that younger Gen Z audience, that they would want someone that kind of has a good foothold in that generation and is playing a lot of popular roles for them, that she would then make that jump to Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I would assume it's Jean Grey just because that rumor came around first and then she was cast in Spider-Man. And if they're trying to make that jump and trying to bring everything together, it makes sense. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I have to catch up. I haven't seen the last two Spider-Mans. I've only seen the first one with Tom Holland, and I wasn't a big, huge fan of it. I love Tobey Maguire, so I'm kind of like biased a little bit. I thought Andrew Garfield was okay as Peter Parker, but I didn't really like him as Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I don't really like the Gwen Stacy storyline. It's like really depressing. It's like really, really miserable. But I understand that it's very important in comic book history because it's the first time a superhero let someone die. So it was kind of a big pivotal moment in superheroes. So they had to
Right.
have it transpire on screen. That being said, speaking of killing, our next story is Jon Bernthal talking about the upcoming Punisher special, and he said, "quote It will not be Punisher light, I promise you that." Which I just saw a video of him getting off the plane in Greece with Matt Damon to go do the Odyssey for Christopher Nolan. So that guy is booked and busy.
Mm-hmm.
John, are you pumped for full-fledged Punisher, not diet or light or
Yes.
yeah.
Because I even like the Ray Stevenson one, which was just over the top comic booky, but just brutally violent.
Mhm.
And this one is going to be that very human heavy story that we saw in the first Punisher series with Jon Bernthal, but it seems like they're going to dial up the action and the violence, and that's what Punisher is. Like, you can't try to assimilate Punisher into all your other Marvel stuff to fit a rating. The reason people are drawn to the Punisher is because that is that R-rated Marvel that is still part of the story, and Frank Castle's brutality. And I was excited about it because, one, I'm a huge Jon Bernthal fan. Two, I've always loved the Punisher. It was one of the 5 comics I would get at my local comic shop that I would go every week to get my 5 new issues of comics, and Punisher was one of them. And but that, now hearing his quote, because now he's speaking about it more, now that they confirmed he's getting his special, this quote, like, it's so good. Because he goes, "I care very deeply about Frank." First of all, him just talking about the character, like, I love that. "I'm really grateful that I'm getting the opportunity to tell the story I think the fans deserve. We're giving it
Mm.
our all, and we're trying to tell a Frank Castle story that we are going to turn our back on the audience. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be light, and I think it's the version that this character deserves, and I'm beyond honored and grateful we get the opportunity. And he went on to say more about it, about how it's going to be dark and bring out Frank's uh, breaking out of the darkness. He has no interest in breaking out of his darkness. It's not going to be easy. So it's going to be a very heavy Punisher story, but the way he talks about it, it's not just another collect a paycheck thing. Like, he really cares about this character, and he feels probably lucky he's getting a second chance to get back into it. And I love that. As someone who's been, campaigning for Make Solo 2 happen for a while, seeing that when other things you like get another go around, that's always a feel good moment. So I'm very excited. I can't wait till this comes out. And I'm even going to start watching Daredevil because of it. Not just because everyone's saying it's amazing, the new
He's in
episodes,
it.
but yeah, but he's in it, and it's going to probably have some level of connection to let us know where Frank is heading into the Punisher special. So I'm in.
Yeah, it's weird to think about how Daredevil and Punisher and Jessica Jones and all these stories came out so long ago, it feels like, and they're finally making their comeback here with these characters. I think at a perfect time, because when they were on Netflix, they already were pretty violent at
Mm-hmm.
times and
Oh yeah,
more on the rated R side. So when Disney and Netflix Netflix really let their copyright expire and it transferred over to Disney, there was some concern that they won't let them go full-fledged R. I think that Jon Bernthal and the Punisher in general are very lucky that movies like John Wick have really taken off, and specifically Deadpool has taken off. I think
oh
Deadpool
yeah,
being so violent and being a comic book character in Marvel, and now he's Daredevil or Deadpool is from 20th Century Fox, has moved over to Disney, that it's kind of paved the way for the Punisher to do its thing. Like, they're being fully supportive of, like, yeah, tell the story that you wanna tell, be as violent as you want. It's not a happy fairy tale, everybody's having a great time. It's like, no, this is a serious, gruesome, it's called The Punisher. Like, let's not sugarcoat it.
I know.
But yeah, I think it's coming at a perfect time that it's able to make it to the full extent. Like, they don't have to cheap it or cover things up or not show as much blood. I think they're just gonna go for it.
Not a good time to be a bad guy if you're in the
No,
way of Frank Castle. That's for
absolutely
sure.
not. It's also seemingly not a good time to be a princess because Snow White is having quite well, not just Snow White and Tiana, but we'll start with Snow White is having quite a moment. We've talked about it a couple times already here on Nerdy and Nice over the past few months about just how the marketing and the lead up and the stories behind this movie and the questionable actions by actors and or the studio. It's now come out that Disney is scaling back the Hollywood premiere for this movie, which is just a weird choice.
Which
So
just
we had
happened on Saturday, I believe.
Yes. So we mentioned a couple weeks ago that they were launching this the social embargo was like Saturday afternoon, and we were like, "What?"
Saturday
And it's
night.
Saturday night, meaning the events in the afternoon, after people have seen the movie. It just felt weird because most premieres are during the week so that it can get into the press cycle, so that you get people before they leave the office on Friday, before they go into their weekend activities. You get the general public, you get the pull quotes, you get all that stuff during the week. They're pushing this movie to a Saturday. They're burying it on a Saturday for the embargo and for the event. And not only that, they announced this past week that they're scaling it back. They're doing even less. They're not inviting press. They're not inviting influencers. They're only inviting photographers, which is like a big question mark to me. There's a lot of toxic things being questioned, behavior from the actors, as well as some reactions from fans that Disney's trying to manage. Um, Honestly, from the get go of this movie being made, with Peter Dinklage talking about the portrayal of little people in the movie. But now, currently, you have Rachel Zegler, who's really spoken out about the Palestine issues, free Palestine, etc. online. And then you have Gal Gadot, who served in the IDF, who's very much on the Israel side. And it's causing much of an issue between the actors, supposedly, that they like can't be together. And they can't do any press for this movie. It's gotten bad. So that is one of kind of the versions of why this is happening. There's also the version that we've talked about, which is this movie isn't good. It's not going to do well. So Disney is burying it on a Saturday in March so that it can just come out and then quickly go away. John, you've talked about this several times. But yeah, I don't know what to say, like, except they're burying this movie. What are your thoughts?
It's weird because, we're about to talk about this Lilo and Stitch trailer, which is, the next live action Disney movie after this. But this comes first. And yeah, everything you just laid out, plus, you know, I'm sure Disney's doing their best effort to have block, delete, hide all the things Rachel Zegler said about the original Snow White. Like,
Yeah.
basically that it's dated and this movie's gonna not be like that and the prince isn't gonna save her and all that stuff. And it's like Disney's probably like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, we need to get people who like that classic in the theater. So people like respond to that. People don't like their things they love being attacked by people making the exact same thing now. So that's a problem. But also, like, really having no press. I guess what Disney's doing with this one is they're fearful of bad reviews, so they're just hoping people hear that a Snow White movie comes out with like no reviews, and they're just like, "Oh, a new Snow White movie," and they just go see it because it
Yeah.
sounds like they're terrified of them getting absolutely annihilated with the reviews. Like, why else would you not invite press? It has nothing to do with the actors. The press would be there to cover the movie. And if they're not, like, they're using that stuff maybe as a cover. Press want to be there to cover this movie for their publications, for their page views, for all that stuff. Disney not wanting them there. Like, if this movie was great and all the gal stuff happened and Rachel Zegler said all those things about the movie, the press would be there. Make no mistake about it. They would absolutely be there because they would want that publicity. They're not there because this is a bad movie. It's simple as that. And they're burying the
Which is
embargo
weird
on
because they had
a
them at the
Saturday.
Oscars. They did present at the Oscars, but even then you wouldn't know that they had a movie coming out.
Right. Yeah. So ultimately, I think this is going to be a disaster. And it is no surprise to me that I don't know if we talked this about on the podcast, but we've seen a couple of reports and very light rumors that Disney may be re-exploring 2D animation again. And just on a whim, I looked up The Lion King, and the budget for The Lion King in 1994 was $34 million, which in today dollars would be like 90. And this movie reportedly cost $280 million to make. So
Disney keeps paying for these. I go back to that guy at the Oscars last year who was like, we could make 5 movies for this amount, for the amount of this one movie that you made.
yeah,
It's just insane.
yeah. I mean, that's all I have to say on it. I'm not, I never wish poorly for a movie, but they got to start doing better. I'm sorry. Like
I
280
feel like
million.
we've said this before. Disney is banking on the idea that, like, oh, you like Disney princesses, you'll go to this. And I
Yeah,
feel
and they're
like they've
about to
done that
find
with a
out.
bunch of them.
They're about to
Yeah.
find out the hard way.
Mm. Um, Going into another Disney princess story would be Anika Nani Rose, who voices Tiana, which, by the way, is I feel one of the best princess ballads is hers, Almost There from Frog Prince. I love that song. Catch me singing in my car to that song all day long. She was
Cash me
supposed
outside.
to What?
You made me think of that girl from Maury or whatever.
Okay. Um, her thoughts recently, they decided that they are pulling the plug on the Tiana Disney Plus series. It got scrapped during production. And she said, quote, I too am deeply disappointed that the continuation of Tiana's journey in series form had been cut so short, which to me, first of all, is disappointing. She is so insanely talented. Like I said, she brought this character to life. Her voice is beautiful. Uh, I want nothing more than for her to have an opportunity to really expand on this character from the one that we got in the movie, which was the last, I believe, hand-drawn movie in recent years from Disney,
I
was
think
Frog
you're right.
Prince.
Yeah.
It was the very last one, and it's one of those ones that I didn't catch it when it first came out, but I watched it since, and it has some of the best songs. It's a great movie, and I understand why they took Splash Mountain and turned it into New Orleans, Princess and the Frog. It just made sense, like, in the scheme of the bigger park. That being said, you're gonna spend all this money and do a full rebrand on Splash Mountain to this princess and then cancel her series? Like, what are we doing? You're in production on this series and you've already gotten everybody involved and you're working, like, just put out one season so that people have something to connect to the ride and get a greater experience of this character and get more excited for this character outside just the one movie. It just seems pretty lame, to be honest. Unless they're taking this and reworking it into a full movie, which they might be doing because they did it with Moana 2. At this point, I don't think they are. It hasn't been announced, but I'm going to cross my fingers that that's what they're planning to do, and it just hasn't been announced yet. But right now, the fact that they canceled this and scrapped it and they're done with it is very, very disappointing. What are your thoughts,
Hmm.
John?
Yeah, it showed like so this series was announced in December of 2020, um, before, the changes started on Splash Mountain, and it just really goes to show that snapshot of that confident Disney Plus era. You're just off the heels of Mando season 2 in 2020. They announced all these things for Star Wars in December 2020. They announced all these things for Disney Plus in 2020, and this was one of them. And now, 5 years later, well, 4.5 years later, it gets canceled. Um, and they, like you said, they built the ride around it, and it just shows the disconnect between the park now and their media platforms, because they were probably banking on that being a huge success. And Disney Plus has not exactly gone the way they thought. I don't think they're going to shift this into a movie, only because I read, in addition to this, that they're transitioning to a short form Tiana series thing for Disney Plus. That's
Like
probably
a
going to be a lot.
special? Yeah.
That's going to be a lot cheaper, and that sort of thing, like those little Frozen things that pop up sometimes, or Toy Story things, which is a bummer because that's sort of like we're gonna appease you with the brand, but we don't really care as much, and it kind of sucks because we went on Tiana's Bayou Adventure and my kids loved the ride. We
Did
loved the
you? Did you
whole
like it?
yeah the whole New Orleans feel.
Was it working?
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
because some
working.
people have gone on it and like the animatronics weren't working.
No, even the Avatar lady worked when we were there, so we had a good week.
You
But
did.
the $9 million Avatar lady,
Yeah.
but
It's not the
no,
Yeti though.
right. So the whole riverboat, the whole big show, and everything. The kids were like loving the music, and it was great. And then I knew like, oh, there's gonna be more Tiana stuff, so maybe Daisy gets into that, maybe even Johnny, who knows? And now that it gets canceled, it's like, all right, so then that ride's there, and it's sort of like now it's gonna feel a little odd because it doesn't sound like they're ramping
Investing in this
anything up.
princess. Yeah.
So it's just very strange to me, and it's unfortunate, um, because I remember seeing my kids' faces on the ride, and I'm like, oh man, they really dig this. That's really cool because I'm
Did
not
they like the
super.
drop?
Well, once it was over, like Daisy did, but Johnny was scared. But then once he did
Oh.
it, he was like, yeah, that was great because he was in the front with me, and we both got just annihilated with water. We were just both just drenched, but it was hot, so it was fine. But seeing their faces and like seeing them enjoy that, and like I'm sure they may have enjoyed this show with bringing back the memories of being on the ride, because that ride really is like you're watching a show because it tells you a story, just like
Mongo the
Splash Mountain
frog.
did. Yeah, yes, exactly. So it is unfortunate, and just part of what's going on, I guess. I kind of wish that we had a more optimistic picture on what these alternatives are, and at least for Tiana, it doesn't sound like there is one yet. So
Mm.
they're in a weird spot.
And it feels like we talked about this on TRB with the recent release of like behind the scenes stuff from Imagineering. Like they showed Cosmic Rewind with the lights on, which they've never done before. They showed Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Like, come on, guys. What's with that name? The Falcon Ride behind the scenes. And I can't help, as someone that is constantly looking up news on theme parks, that they're chasing Epic Universe from Universal, who's coming out with these crazy rides,
Yep.
totally thematic experiences from the moment you walk through the portal. The way that the park is designed is something actually Disney stole from them when they made Galaxy's Edge with the Harry Potter world, where it's like you walk through, there's a term for it, you walk through this like little door and then it expands and it creates this visual and emotional experience of like, oh my god, I'm stepping into this world. They do that with all their plan is to bring you into those spaces. And we've said it before that not just with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge to Star Wars Land, but like with a lot of the lands now and the rides, it doesn't feel like the experience of being in that world. It's just, oh, this ride is here. Oh, this is
Yeah.
this ride. Oh, this is that ride. I'm at Disney World. Whereas now going into Universal, you're walking through different lands. You're in those
Yeah, they're
movies.
good
You're
at that.
in those places. Um, so this just feels like a little bit of a lame cut. Like, I don't know why they cut this. I don't know what the reasoning was. It's not like Disney's hurting with money. So it
They're
just to me,
just they're done with long form Disney Plus stuff right now. It's across
it
the
just
board.
it's crazy to me. I get that. But if we're being honest, talking about representation in media, I think this series was definitely important for people. And the
Yeah,
fact that they
sure.
nixed it, but then kept other things, I don't know, they're going to give you 17 Frozens, but they can't give you a Tiana series. Like, come on.
Well,
Speaking of
i- i-
series,
Frozen's going to theaters. That's a movie. So I don't think
I
that's a
understand
fair
that, but they still
comparison.
gave a bunch of different Frozen series and short form stuff and etc., all these other things.
They're going to do short form stuff for Tiana, but I don't think it's what people are looking for.
I agree.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just feels cheap is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, so going back to the idea of series, we were just talking about Harry Potter World or the different lands that they have for Harry Potter now. They're moving along with the casting for Harry Potter. We've talked about several times now. What's his name is playing Dumbledore. John Lithgow is playing Dumbledore. They did announce that Papa Esidu, is that right? Hope I got that name right. Uh, he's basically 90% there and closing that he's going to play Snape. And then now it's coming across that Janet McTeer is in negotiations to play McGonagall for the Harry Potter series. I'm going to be honest, the only person I've ever heard of in this listing of people is Lithgow. I don't know anybody else, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to do a good job. So, John, are you surprised by this casting? Were you thinking of anybody else? I know before we talked about Brett Goldstein playing Hagrid months ago.
Oh yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah.
No. Yeah. It's definitely not shocking, but unexpected that they're clearly casting someone who doesn't look like Snape. You know, like even in the
Yep.
books, like he has a yellowish skin with long black hair and a pointy nose and almost like witch like. And then they're like, no, we're just gonna put this good looking British black man in and he's gonna be the new Snape. And it's like,
He
all
is
right.
very good looking. And you're like, okay.
And then you know, I've seen him in he was in Murder on the Orient Express. I saw that one, you know, the Kenneth Branagh
Oh,
Poirot
yes, he
story.
was in that. I saw that. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. With Daisy
But he's
Ridley.
also
Yeah.
Yep, and he's done some Shakespeare movies, and I guess he was part of the Royal Shakespeare Acting Company, so he's got the chops. It's just surprising because you're like Lithgow, okay, I can see how they're gonna make him look like Dumbledore, and then you see Janet McTeer, and you're like, oh yeah, definitely be McGonagall, and then you're like, oh wow, all right, we go from Alan Rickman to Papa Isidore. So
I think they
um
had to though, because how do you compete with Alan Rickman, who was like literally a dream casting?
well, everyone was like Adam Driver. I'm like, Adam Driver would not come do this. No way.
I don't think he would, and I don't think they want to just double up on someone that looks similar.
I
Again,
know.
it's
Yeah,
like
I
not
know.
honoring Alan Rickman to cast someone that looks just like Alan Rickman.
And they could still give this guy long hair, and they could do like unique things with him. Like it doesn't have to look exactly like the book. I know people like are purists, and they like because they read the book a certain way and they pictured him in their mind a certain way, and then they made him in the movie
Yeah,
that same
books are a
way.
personal experience, yeah.
Yeah. So, but the guy clearly has the acting chops, and that goes a long way. He's young, so that's interesting because I always saw Snape as not a young guy. He's only 34. So, but they're from what I understand, staying close to the books. So I don't know what that means. But needless to say, I'm still intrigued to what this is going to be because HBO is the king of live action television. I love the Harry Potter movies, and I'm gonna keep my eye on what this is about. I'm sure I'm gonna watch it when it comes out. But yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say like household names or anything. These are obviously very successful actors. But we'll see. I think I'm gonna be more interested when I find out, what kids they cast to play, the main three, and
I think that's the big question
what
right
lucky
now.
kids are gonna win the golden ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is gonna be an interesting day on the internet because everyone's gonna have something to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
But why don't we get into some trailers now?
let's do it.
Oh god, I love that movie.
All right, Lacey, let's kick things off. Yes, Disney live action, but maybe something that looks like it can make a lot of money,
Ton of
uh,
money.
as a, as opposed to Snow White. Trailer for Lilo and Stitch has arrived. It hits theaters May 23rd, just before Memorial Day weekend. Lacey, was this a good trailer? And what do you make of this latest attempt at live action for Disney with Lilo and Stitch?
I thought that this trailer was hilarious. I thought it was really charming and cute and a perfect kids family movie. And I'm not gonna lie, while watching it, I thought maybe this is the first movie I take Daisy to.
Ah, nice. That's a
'Cause
good
it's, like,
one.
right up her alley. It's, like, she's very obsessed with, like, plushies and animals and stuff like that and, like, having pets and, best friends and stuff like that, and this just seems like something she would like, I could see her dressing up as this character for Halloween with a Stitch.
Excellent. I
Yeah.
love it.
But I loved it. I like that it's the original voice for Stitch. I
Mm-hmm.
think they nailed the CG on Stitch. He looks
Oh,
right out of the original movie, even better than, the animation. I don't know how I feel about the casting of, Lilo's sister. She doesn't look anything like the sister who's just, like, more mature. Like, she looks
mm-hmm.
very young, in this movie, but I will give her till I see the movie to really give my opinion on that, but, I like that they used the original music from the animated feature, which is one of my favorites. It's really good. Um it looks great. I think it's gonna make buckets of money, and I said that after I finished watching the trailer. I was like, "This is gonna make buckets," not just in movie, but in merchandising and all different types of stuff. You're gonna see a lot of Lilo and Stitches this year at Halloween, like I was just saying.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is so you have Chris Sanders, he's back. He also co-directed and co-wrote and wrote the story, I believe, for the original. Um,
Yeah.
so the fact that he's back and he didn't write the screenplay or direct this one, but he clearly on board because he liked what they were doing with it, or he would have been like, no, don't want to, tarnish my, legacy with it. Pretty interesting casting here. Zach Galifianakis is in it. Tia Carrere, like, haven't seen her forever. I love Tia Carrere. Um, but yeah, you're right. The animation of Stitch, like whatever budget they put into that is unbelievable. It even makes Sonic look a little dated. Like
Mhm.
it's
I
the
think
little hairs
Disney,
and everything.
if yeah, if you compare this film to Snow White in marketing, in the way it's being presented, and the way people are talking about it, you know that Disney's proud of this movie.
Yeah,
They're putting it Memorial Day weekend. They're gonna have a nice big Hollywood premiere with a bunch of celebrities and their families the
take a
weekend
photo with
before.
Stitch. Yep.
Yeah. They're gonna have an animatronic of Stitch, I bet, that you can pose with, something like that, kinda like Grogu style. You could tell that they're proud of this movie and they know it's gonna make money.
Yeah, they're gonna have the talking toys with like actual fur. It's all they're all on a truck somewhere. It's I agree. This thing could be an easy billion. I think this is gonna be a win for Disney, which will be a huge life raft after what we expect is gonna happen with Snow White. So very two different tales for the next two live action chapters for um, Disney remakes. But let's move on to let's do the Stanley one because I don't want to end on like a sad one. So
Sure.
there's a Kickstarter, so it's a little murky on this, but it's a trailer for this documentary that the former assistant for Stanley once made called Stanley the Final Chapter. And this whole thing just bothered me. Like, I don't want them to make it. I just let us know what happened and what he went through, but I don't want to watch him because even just watching this clip, I just wanted to get him the hell out of there. So I don't have much to say on this, but I can't see myself watching this because you're just seeing an old man being taken advantage of, um, and used as a stamp of approval for all these Marvel movies because he had to do it. All these characters he helped make or made himself 60 years ago. The whole thing just I don't like it. I'm glad the message is getting out there, I guess. I don't know for what intentions, of course, but uh I didn't know that he was treated badly. So from that perspective, I think it's a good thing. But what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
It's sad to see. I just like you, I do have questions. You know, this guy's his former assistant. So my first question is like, were you part of the problem? Were you part of the issue? I don't believe any police charges were filed or reported or Stanley passed away unfortunately, sadly, 7 plus years ago. So, it's weird to me that this is coming out now. It feels to me like a money grab on someone that's passed, unless they're trying to raise awareness for elder abuse or they're trying to get a case together to then press charges. I just don't know what the benefit of telling this story is, I guess. Like, what's the end goal here? Um, it was just like you said, very hard to watch. Stan is someone that I came across with numerous times when I worked for Reed Pop. He was one of the bigger guests they had on a regular basis. I have interacted with that manager that you see on camera that doesn't treat him well. And I can tell you from the very first show I ever did, Comic Con show, I was warned on how terrible that guy is. I was told he's a rude guy, he's difficult, he's not easy to work with. If you
The
get
dark
Stan,
hair guy, not the long hair
yes,
kid? Yeah.
yes. Uh, if you work with Stan, you have to deal with him. Like, it was a known thing, and I remember at C2E2 going up to the booth Stan was at because he had all these like, he had to have a booth space and a panel and, like, all this other stuff. And I remember the first show I ever did that Stan was at, I had to go get some type of video or photo of him being at the event to promote on social media, and they were like, "Yeah, go talk to so and so." And when I went up to him, the guy was like, "Yeah, Stan will do it." And I was like, "Are you sure?" It's like, and he's like, "Yeah, he'll do it." But the way he said it wasn't, "Oh, Stan thinks it's okay." It's like, "No, he'll do it." And I remember years later, he was at a different show and he was straight up asleep backstage in between autographing. And I remember telling someone that he was asleep and being like, "That's not okay. Like, what is going on here?" Um, and it was kind of played off of like, "Oh, that's what Stan does. That's how he sleeps in between everything." And he was known to be one of the fastest autographers. Like he would autograph, I think 100 people in an hour or something like that. Like he was just racing through them. And I remember being just like so sad watching it all take
Mm,
place, especially the later
yeah.
years where I'd interact with him backstage and I'd be talking to him and he'd just kind of be like, "What? Huh?" And I'd be like, "This guy is just being dragged around to these shows and he doesn't really understand where he is, what he's doing." And not to mention, it doesn't seem like he wants to be here. Like, poor guy probably wanted to be on a beach somewhere. Um, so yeah, it's I'm not for this. I need to know what the end goal is with something like this. Like, what are you getting out of this besides just creating toxic situations online? And I I guess the same could be said for any true crime case or true crime documentary, but oftentimes those are to raise awareness for a foundation or to get charges filed or find out for more information about a case or something like that. To me, I'm not sure what the goal is here. But being someone that interacted with these people and have seen it firsthand what's going on, what happened, it's not easy to watch, and you feel helpless when you're not in a certain position to say anything.
Yeah, and I just did some looking up, and I guess in 2018, uh, in April of 2018, before he died, Hollywood Reporter published a report that claimed he was a victim of elder abuse. So we should read that, go back and read that article now, and see what they had to say about that. But his wife died
I
the year
remember
before
that
he
came
died,
out.
so
Yeah, I remember that came out, but the thing was that it was all these rumors and alleged information, but nothing had been processed,
oh no,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
criminally.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and he was doing all this stuff while his like wife was still alive, and then she died, and then he died the year after, and that's tough because I lost my grandma last year, and our grandpa's still here, and he's 95, and Stan Lee was 95, and it's like I would be absolutely devastated if my grandfather had some a hole who doesn't really care about him, like pushing family away to like wring the sponge because clearly that guy was making a cut, or else why would he give a
Yep.
shit?
Yep.
It's just it's ugly. I have no interest in watching it, even if it was for a good cause. Like I'll donate to the cause, I guess, but I don't want to see this old man. Like no one should have to see Stanley like this. So I think this whole thing, actually, the more I talk about it, I don't
That's
I
what I'm
don't like it.
saying, like, what is the
Yeah,
end goal here? Like, you could take this information and go file criminal charges. You could create a
it
foundation
sounds
knowing what had
dirty.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
it just sounds. And then in the trailer, because I watched it with the sound off because I couldn't bring myself to listen to what was being said. There's shots of this assistant guy in the car with Stan, and I couldn't help but think, like, you're part of the problem.
yeah. Um,
Like,
I
if you've
don't.
done nothing except make a documentary, like, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, and he. Yeah, I'm looking at the Kickstarter now, and he's
It
raised
just
like
it
four. He's
feels
trying to
wrong.
he's trying to raise $300,000 for this, and I bet he's gonna spend not even that at all. So I hope people, I hope reporters out there like keep an eye on this thing. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not making any accusations whatsoever, but the whole
Mm.
thing just makes me feel not good. And the thumb he uses for it is Stan with his like leaning on a table like this because he's exhausted. And it's like, what are we doing? This guy is one of the biggest icons in the history of fiction.
And he's not here anymore to defend himself.
Yeah, it's messy. So
Move
let's
on.
move on to the studio. Uh Lacey, is are you interested in the studio? Is this a good trailer? And I don't think either of us have Apple TV, so that makes it
I
interesting.
do.
But you have it now?
I love Severance. I have Apple TV.
Did you just get Apple TV?
I did about 2 weeks ago.
All right, maybe I'll get Apple TV. I don't know. But good trailer of the
Severance is so
studio.
good.
What do you think?
I am definitely gonna watch this. This might be the reason I stick around after Severance, which ends on the 21st. So this comes out the 26th. So the following week this comes out. I might stick around for it. I also want to try Shrinking with Harrison Ford. I've heard wonderful things about that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, no, I'm totally into this. I love Seth Rogen. I think he's hilarious. Catherine O'Hara. We were actually just doing a Patreon video about actresses and actors who are the best comedic act. I would say she is the best comedic actress of our time, hands down.
Yeah, I think so.
I said, by the way, if you're interested, I said Robin Williams. John had said Bill Murray. I would say, because we did male and female. Female wise, I would say Catherine O'Hara is the funniest woman to exist on this planet. She is so funny. But
She's up there for sure.
yeah, going through what we discussed earlier with just like studio decisions and marketing and why they make these choices. And this is totally a satire that is making fun of all of that, but there's also a little truth to it, which makes it a little scary.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cameos. Catherine Hahn is in it. She's playing like a hilarious marketing executive, it looks like. I'm in. I'm in on this.
I kind of am too. I think the cast is very interesting. I like that it feels like you're sort of going behind the scenes of Hollywood with them. I like how it's shot in that way. Um yeah, Catherine O'Hara, Ike Barinholtz, he's good. Catherine Hahn seems like she's going to be one of the mains. She's playing a character named Maya. And then I'm not familiar with Chase Sweet Wonders, but she's another lead, and I don't know if she's playing like I don't know who she's playing.
There was an assistant that walked around with him, so maybe it's the assistant.
Oh yeah, probably. So
Because
here's
there's
all the
that guy from the Mindy Kaling project.
Oh
That's
yep,
the main other like businessy guy with the slicked back hair. And then there
yep,
was a woman that was with them as well.
yep. That's cool. So it's gonna be 10 episodes. Like you said, debuts March 26th. I think this is a good trailer. I did not know. I knew of this series. Like I heard of it recently. I did not know Catherine O'Hara's in it. That's like an instant yes for me. And then add the other people that I just mentioned, and yeah, why not? Let's have some fun.
She's at the
So
beginning with the curly hair sitting with him outside.
no, I meant when I heard of this show, I
Oh,
didn't
oh,
know
oh.
she was in it. So then I played the
Yeah.
trailer and I see her and hear her. I'm like,
Yeah. So
so
good.
yeah, I am very interested in this, and I think this is going to be a good show. So I want to check this out.
Me too. Thank
But
you for
let's
ending on that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, let's get into what we're watching before we get out of here.
We can never leave the house, and would just probably sit around all weekend and watch TV.
Go on.
All right, Lacey, let's try to in 2 minutes or less tackle the Love is Blind thing.
I was going to do the other two things I watched first and then go into that because then that will transition to you and then you can go into what you did. Do you see what
That's
I did
fine
there?
with me.
Okay, so first up, I'm still watching Severance. It is getting so good. I am about midway season 2, so I'm coming to the end. They put out new episodes every Friday. I haven't seen this past Fridays yet. And then there's only one more left. So I'm kind of concerned they're not going to wrap this up. And it took them 2 years to get to this season. So I'm worried that it's going to be another 2 years before I see any more if they're doing more. It's so good. Can't say enough. The cinematography is stunning. Acting top level. The lighting is something that I noticed a lot with this show. That is just like they don't do this anymore with TV. Like how good the lighting is. Christopher Walken's in it. And there's a scene where he's sitting at a dinner table and there's like a fireplace light and then an overhead light at the table and he's just lit so beautifully. And then he goes to the front door to talk to one of the characters and the way that the light just falls across his face, I'm like, who did they get to light this? It is the best lighting, like a masterpiece. Anyway, not lit well, but still somewhat entertaining. The big thing everybody's been talking about this past week, which is the Jubilee debate, which is a YouTube channel where they have one person in the middle and 20 people on the outside that all feel differently than the person in the middle. This week, they released an episode with Sam Cedar. It was wild, to say the least, insane that people do this. It was crazy that this is a thing that is super popular on YouTube. If you're interested, go get it or go watch it. It's definitely more on the political end of things if that's what you're into. But man, it is wild. I sent some clips to John, and I think you agree. Like, it's just like crazy, crazy stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But speaking of crazy, I would say messy. Speaking of messy, Love is Blind ended this past weekend, or this past week, I guess, with the reunion and the weddings. And so only one couple made it through, spoiler alert, and all the rest were disastrous. My overall opinion about Love is Blind is you have women that want to get married and men that are trash, except for the one guy that wanted to get married very bad, the short guy. Every other man that I've seen in the past, and there's been 5 years, 8 seasons, generally speaking, I would say it's 80-20 when it goes to women that want to get married to men that want to get married. And this season especially, these dudes did not want to get married.
One guy did, and she said no.
She said no because of several different reasons, but I'm just gonna lead with I think the men on this season were trash. I'm gonna go with that.
I'm not talking about that guy. I know who you're talking about. I'm talking about that guy Devin. Like he was just like
Yeah,
absolutely
he's trash
devastated.
too.
Is he?
Yes. Did you watch the
Well,
reunion?
can we be honest? I don't like what you're doing here. I don't like that you're just saying all the men suck and all the women are great. Like those women suck too. Like they did. They were a lot of them are terrible.
To be fair, the producers came out and said that they agree that the men this season did not want to get married.
I understand what you're saying, but it feels like I'm being attacked as a part of that
Oh, come
species.
on. Stop.
And I wanted to get married, and I did.
Oh my God. You're being ridiculous. I'm clearly not talking about you and every single man in this country. Let's have a little nuance, Mr. John Hoey nuance. Let's have a little nuance that the
I'm
men
never.
in the season of Love is Blind are trash. Do I
Yes.
have to
Yeah.
specify that? The 4 men that went into these pods didn't go in with necessarily great intentions and went in with a certain picture in their head of who they wanted, and they thought that they had that person, and when they got out, they didn't want to get married.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever. It was a very. I don't even know if I'll watch another Love Is Blind after they hoodwinked me with that false scandal that wound up being the only couple to get married. Like, what a crappy show. I gotta find something
All
else.
right. But let's clarify before you twist this into something that it's not. I'm not saying all men are trash. I'm married myself.
Oh, I was
I'm
joking
saying the
around.
men on
Yeah.
the season are trash.
Yes.
And going into the Lauren specifically situation, Lauren and Dave, which we talked about last week at length, which I won't do it again, were there. First of all, she looked gorgeous. She looked absolutely amazing. She basically was like, "Yeah, you did this sketchy stuff." And then he was like, "She's the one that got away." And I'm like, "No, Lauren, don't do it." And she came out later with an exclusive interview with Entertainment Tonight being like, "No, I will never go near that." No, we're
Right.
not doing this. So I
But
was happy about that.
but I think what I last week what I explained what I thought had happened is basically what she thinks happened in retrospect. Like in the reunion, she's like, basically you gaslit me and stuff like that, and he did. That guy
Yes.
was a
Yeah.
total
Dave
douche.
sucks.
Yeah. Um, anything else? Did you watch anything else?
Not really. I've watched a lot of Bluey again. I'm
Yeah,
tempted to reach out to people from Bluey and have them come on this show so we can talk about it because
that'd
it's
be
that
amazing. Yeah, Daisy just started getting into Bluey. We're trying to
good.
we're trying to transition her from Peppa Pig to Bluey.
Still kind of British-ish.
Yeah, yeah, but I think Bluey has a more wholesome, Peppa Pig.
Bluey
I
is
think
one
they're
of the best TV shows
antagonistic
ever
things.
created, and I'm not just saying that. Like, top 5 best TV shows I've ever watched is Bluey. I will stick by that statement. How many episodes have you watched?
I don't watch them. My kids do.
Oh, I straight up watch them with my kids.
I'll watch some. I'll watch some. All right. What did I get into? I watched WWE Raw on Netflix. John Cena did not show up, so I don't know if he's like filming another movie, but he will be at WrestleMania for his final WrestleMania as a bad guy. Unbelievable. But WWE is doing some cool stuff. I do think I have 2 comments on wrestling though, and I know we have a bunch of our listeners who do like wrestling. One, the false finishes. Like guys, like back in my day, if a guy hit his finishing move, you're done. Like the match was over. And once in a while they would do it on a big event, but now every match, every guy does his finishing move 12 freaking times. And every girl does her move 12 freaking times, and they kick out of it every time. And the other thing, we need more real stories, like actual stories, and not just like, hey, WrestleMania's coming up. No, I'm gonna fight you, and then we're gonna be mad at each other for a few weeks, and then fight at WrestleMania. Like, no, tell the stories. Like Ric Flair claiming he was sleeping with Elizabeth, and Macho Man like getting mad about it, and then they have a match. Like it was a soap opera. They used to tell like stories. They need to get back to doing more of that. But it's still a fun watch, and in times where it's, you know, a Monday night, maybe you have a bad day, you don't want to watch the news for sure, pop on wrestling and just turn your brain off and have a good time. Now, a show you have to pay attention to, which I just started watching on Hulu, which so far so good, Paradise. It is very good. I think it's a show that's going to hinge upon how they reveal the story, but it is very unique. It feels a little like Lost, because it is a very unique situation that these humans are put into. But the acting is tremendous. Um, I'm trying to think of
I have no idea what this show is. I've never heard of it.
So it's basically about a former president of the United States and his security team, his security detail, who's still assigned to him after his terms are over, and what unfolds after some pretty catastrophic incidents. So James Marsden plays the former president. Sterling K. Brown, from that popular show with Mandy Moore that was on for a while. Something Last of Us, or not Last of Us, something
This
about
is
us.
us.
This is us. You got Last of Us, you got It Ends With Us, you got
something
This
about
Is
us.
Us. Everything's us. But he's tremendous. Sterling K. Brown is crushing it in this show, as is Julianne Nicholson. She is excellent. Sarah Shahi's great. So I recommend it if you have Hulu. Check out Paradise. It's very, very good. They will have to stick the landing, or like make sure their twist or whatever it is good though. It's going to be one of those shows. And then I watched The Substance, as I said I would. So I never want to watch this movie again. And you, why is that? I didn't expect you to laugh at that part. What made you laugh at that?
Because I would have guessed you'd say that. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Did you see it?
I've seen huge chunks of it.
Yeah, I don't know that you would like watching this movie because it is stressful and it's body horror.
Yeah, it's gory.
Yeah, so this movie definitely took a page out of The Fly, and not the Vincent Price version, but the Jeff Goldblum version. It's just this slow, unavoidable, tragic decline of a person.
I told you what
And
this was about weeks ago. She gets the drugs, she inserts in herself, then
I
someone
know,
comes out of her
yes,
back.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that I watched it, so I'm trying to talk about it.
I know. Just saying. Go ahead.
So because I've seen The Fly, and this movie made me feel the same way The Fly did. Like, it's just, there's something about a slow death in a movie, whether it's, you know, a momentary slow death like Adam Goldberg in Saving Private Ryan, or seeing someone slowly decline and it just being this unavoidable, like, just gradual just depletion of a human. And it's well made, and I totally understand the message. I completely get that, but I ultimately don't think it's that good of a movie. Demi Moore was great. I think she probably deserved the Oscar over Mikey Madison. But it's just, it's one of those movies that I didn't like, but it disturbed me enough that I think about it still. And a lot of people say like, well, that was the purpose of the movie, so you think about it. I'm like, yeah, but I like movies that I like. Like, I didn't like this movie, and it stuck with me because it's just so disturbing, and I don't think that should be enough.
The end scene where she's standing up on stage is wild.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah.
You saw the boob?
Yeah, the boob pops out of like the mouth or whatever it is. Yeah. and she just squirts blood everywhere.
I mean,
And
yeah,
then
that felt
turns
like a little
into,
Carrie.
and
It
then
is definitely a
turns into
self-aware movie,
goo.
but yeah, it's a ridiculous movie. I like that it's unique and it was clever, so I give props to that. Demi Moore was amazing. So was Margaret
I think to me,
Qualley. But
she deserved it 100%. I'm
yeah, she
sorry.
did.
I thought
Yeah.
that from weeks ago.
And the studio head guy's name is Harvey, and he's
Yeah.
and
Did
he
you see
fires her
though
at 50.
that it came out that the studio that did Enora spent ridiculous amounts of money to
Yeah.
get her that Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
like sending people gifts, you know, reviews, etc., compared to the people that did Substance. Like they spent, I think it was 4 times the amount that the cost of the movie was to get her that Oscar.
Yeah, they need to, like with campaign finance, they need to regulate the Oscars in a way because Moore won every other award.
She did.
So I think she deserved it for sure. Great performance, like maybe one of her best of her career, if not the best. So, uh, if people want to watch it. It's disturbing. It's not a payoff enough. I didn't miss the message. I completely understand what the message is. You know, embrace what you are. You know, all of that. But disturbing movie. But that's it. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Anything else you want to toss out there?
I don't think so. Might as well end on the bloody, gory boob goo movie.
Did you say Boob Magoo?
Boob goo movie. At the end, she
Boob
just turns
Goo.
into goo.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you to everybody for listening, watching, getting nerdy with us today. A lot of stuff we talked about, so let us know what part of the show you enjoyed the most, please, and what your thoughts are on all these stories, the trailers, and what we've been watching. And if you have any recommendations on things that we should watch, maybe something that's not that popular that's really cool, let us know. Hit us up at Nerdy and Nice Pod on social media. And of course, we have our Patreon, patreon.com/TRB podcast, where we do stuff for this show and the Resistance broadcast. Tiers start at just $5, and your support allows this show to exist, allow TRB to exist, and allow us to continue to grow in the future. So we thank you all very much. Also, Nerdy Nice is on its own feed. Obviously, if you're listening, you found it. Make sure you do subscribe because it is a separate feed from the Resistance broadcast. And if you could rate us 5 stars on your preferred platform, that would be cool too. And if you want to leave a review, maybe we'll start doing shout outs on the show with those reviews. So thank you very much. And a special shout out to the movie star generals and spice runners Carmelo, John RISI, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian's a silver screen spice runner now. Sorry, Brian. I'm so used to the flow. Danny, Mike Mori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Colin Cormier, Stephen Garrow, Sachi, and Darth Snips, and the Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, KENDALL, GELNER, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, the Fort Worthian, and Brian Smith. There you are, buddy. And everybody, however you support us on Nerdy and Nice, Resistance Broadcast, the whole TRB thing, thank you very much. Johnny Hoey for me on Blue Skies, the main spot, my movie pod, Just Like the Movies. We just did Step Brothers last week. And talking Star Wars with the great Lacey Gilleran here. So, Lacey, where can people hit you up and chat about all this cool stuff we talked about?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran.
All right, that is it from us. We'll be back with you next week with a new episode when it will be spring officially, Lacey. We will be in spring. The first. Did we do Nerdy and Nice in the spring ever? I don't think so.
No, we started in May.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Coming up on a year.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year. So thank you everybody so much. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. And Star Wars fans will be with you Thursday for the Resistance broadcast. But we're out for now. Enjoy your weeks. We'll see you next time. And we'll see you around, kids.